Hi, and welcome to another episode of Piano TV. So we are going to discuss canons today and why I think that they're such a crucial thing to learn how to do on the piano. And we have discussed other song forms on this channel, like we've talked about polonaises and waltzes and things like that, but I'm gonna do this video just a little bit differently. So instead of just telling you about the canon and talking about the history and stuff, which we will get into a little bit, I wanna focus on why I think learning canons on the piano, or their cousin inventions, is such an important skill to develop, even when you're a complete beginner. It doesn't matter if you've been playing piano for like 10 years or 10 days. You're probably tired of me referring to things as musical broccoli, but in this case, I really do think that canons are like straight up musical broccoli. They're really, really good for you, but sometimes like they're not, especially when we're just starting them, they're not as palatable. But then once we get into them and learn to appreciate them, we start to crave them. There's my metaphor of the day. I'm done with it now. Okay, let's get started. So what is a canon? Well, we spent a little bit of time talking about this, especially in the context of canon in D, because we did a tutorial on canon in D, like with sheet music and everything, but we also did a musical analysis on it. So I'll link that here on the screen if you want to check those out if you missed them. And canon in D is definitely the canon most people are familiar with, so I want to use it as an example. That's what I've got up here in front. So what a canon is an imitation-based song. So in canon in D, our example here, there are 3 violin parts and they're all playing the exact same part, but the catch is they're playing them at different intervals. So you see where I have the yellow. This is like the leader violin plays this little tune. Then violin number 2 comes in and plays the same tune, but staggered by a couple bars. And then same with violin number 3, but staggered a couple bars even more. This creates a really neat overlapping effect. So what I want to do, I want to show you really quick what that sounds like, and then we are going to talk more about the piano playing aspect of this. So the thing that sets a canon apart from its cousin, the invention, is that a canon uses direct imitation. So this means that the copycat parts are completely identical, whereas an invention does involve copying to some degree. There's like definitely imitation going on, but it's not going to be like a carbon copy. It's not going to be like a perfect note for note, interval by interval imitation. It's just going to be kind of like loosely based on it. The word canon actually dates back to the 1500s and the Renaissance era, but canons have actually been around longer, just with other names like rounds or fuga legata, which just means a fettered fugue. So some of the earliest canons were rounds, it's basically where everyone sings the same lyrics, but staggered about a bar apart. Rounds are usually also super simple, like a casual person who doesn't know anything about music could sing a round. It's not like a big complex marvel of music, but again, they kind of create like a really neat staggered effect. Though identical canons like rounds are definitely the most common types of canons, you can sometimes have other types. Like for example, you could have an inverted canon where it's repeating except it's moving like in the complete opposite direction, hence inverted. Or you could have canons where one hand is doing a rhythm that's completely different than the other hand. Maybe like one hand is going really slow, but it's like the same tune. You saw that a lot in the Renaissance with composers like Josquin des Prez, I'm not sure how to say his name, I'm sorry. So how does this translate to the piano, and why is it such an awesome but difficult skill to have? Well, I want to start by talking about why canons and inventions are awesome. One of the biggest complaints that I hear piano players make, it doesn't matter if they're beginners or if they've been playing a while, is that it's really difficult to get each hand to do separate things on the piano. The left hand has a tendency to copy the right hand or the other way around. And a lot of modern music involves the left hand doing some type of chord or like bass pattern, while the right hand deals with a lot of the intricacies like the fast notes or like the fills or the trills or anything like that. So what this means is that the left hand is mainly delegated to a supportive role, as opposed to the active role of the right hand. So when we encounter music that requires the left hand to take like an active role, like playing the tune, I just have a little Canon in front of me right now. That's what I'm playing. It's just by Bartok. But we have trouble doing that with the left hand because it's just uncommon, right? How many times have you tried to do something fast in your left hand, your fingers just like fall flat? So canons and inventions are an amazing way to practice this. Playing 2-part canons on the piano, it's a great way to get your left hand more actively involved. So whether the left hand is being the leader or the follower, its role is active as opposed to supportive. And so on. It takes a little bit more concentration. They're really fun. Another reason that I encourage learning canons right from a beginner level is because once you get to about like a grade 7 or 8 level, it's time to whip out the Bach inventions. And these inventions have 2 parts, so 1 part in the left hand and 1 part in the right hand. And they are just like, I just want to say musical broccoli. I gotta come up with something different, but that's what they are. Anyway, they're just like, they're super vital to becoming a better piano player. They're just like, it's like a tradition to learn the inventions and one that I think is worth it. So once you master the inventions, you move on to the sinfonias. Now the sinfonias are crazy because instead of 2 parts, 1 on the left, 1 on the right, there are 3 parts. And since we only have 2 hands, not 3 hands, that's obviously like an added challenge. And once you've mastered the sinfonias, you can move on to the gold standard of Baroque music. This is actually, it's the well-tempered clavier. It has all of Bach's preludes and fugues. And the fugues are, let's see, I did a little bit of highlighting. The fugues are definitely like some of the most interesting writing on piano ever, in my opinion. Actually, a little fun fact for those of you who like Chopin, which is a lot of us, I think. He actually traveled with the well-tempered clavier as like one of the main books that he liked using to practice his own technique, to study from it, and he also used the well-tempered clavier to teach his students with. So it's good enough for Chopin. So what makes learning a canon a nightmare? It's mainly just the brain power required to play them. Playing canons requires a completely different way of thinking. You not only have to focus on the right hand melody, but you have to focus equally on the left hand melody as well. And then what you have is a situation where the left hand and right hand overlap, but they're doing completely different things. So it's like you need to split your brain in 2 directions, like each of your hands is on a completely different track. In my video that I did recently, I'll link it, on 5 finger exercises for the piano. One of the finger exercises I included was a canon. And if you tried to play it, maybe you noticed that you did have to think about it in a little bit of a different way than you would have otherwise. Maybe it was more difficult for you to play than some of the others, like it was for me, for sure. Because of this challenge, I find a lot of my students actually shrink away from canons in fear, but it's because they're difficult that we want to practice them. Like, seek out your fears, use courage, and face them, and it'll make you a better piano player. So even if you don't care about classical music, Baroque music, whatever at all, and you're like, I'm never gonna play the well-tempered clavier, I still think you should learn canons, because learning that hand independence, how to move your hands without influencing the other hands, is one of like the big challenges of playing the piano. And it doesn't matter if you're learning jazz or if you're learning classical or whatever. The most difficult piano pieces will always include some degree of hand independence. So the more challenging the music gets, the more independent your hands can become and the more parts and layers that get added to it. So studying canons, especially in the early stages, is a really good way to help build up that like intensely crucial skill. So in the next video, I'm actually going to share with you one of my favorite canon resources from, like, it doesn't matter if you're a beginner to like if you've been playing for a few years. It's a really good book. It's available for free online. I don't want to spoil it now, but stay tuned for the next video and we will look at that and do a tutorial of a canon. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Hope you learned something. At the very least, I hope I like pumped you up a little bit to learn some Bach in the future or right now. So give this video a like if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you, I'm trying to like change it up. I'll catch you. The thing, there we go. My cat's tweaking out. Let's see if we can do this fast.